Hey guys, this is Hawkeye here. You may remember me from the Metal Gear Solid glitch that I did a little while ago. I haven't been back for a little while, so I finally decided to make another video, and I found something that seemed like it was good enough to put on the internet. Basically, here's a glitch that allows you to hold 7 of the 8 championships in SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, which is pretty awesome. You're not supposed to be able to hold the world titles from 2 different shows, and on here, if you use my method, you're going to be able to hold 7 of the 8 belts in the entire game. Well, if you want to do that, that's great. If you want to do the easy way and get the Undisputed Championship, like maybe you don't care about the other belts, you just want to be Undisputed Champion and just hold the 2 main belts or hold 4 of the belts or something like that, that's fine. We're going to go through that glitch too. It's a lot easier, and well, you don't get to hold as many belts, so I don't like it as much. But I will show you how to do it, and strap on because we're going to be winning the Undisputed Championship. Okay, for this part, we have Rob Van Dam, and he's a bit of a accident waiting to happen if you don't utilize him right at the very beginning of the season. You got to make sure that he stays on Monday Night Raw. If he's not there already, take him from the SmackDown roster and put him on Raw, because if you leave him on SmackDown, he's going to be a problem later. When it comes to the glitch for the Undisputed Championship, just by random accident or whatever happens with the game that makes it do it, he will replace the champion in the match. He'll replace the World Heavyweight Champion. It'll just force it to happen, and therefore it'll stop the Undisputed Championship match from happening. Instead of facing the World Champion, the WWE Champion will face Rob Van Dam. It'll happen every single time. I tried it a couple different ways. I even went back a month and tried it again, thinking that maybe this is just a one-time thing. And every single time I tried it, it did it. So basically, you have to make sure at the very beginning of the season, when you set up for your second season to play as the WWE Champion, that Rob Van Dam is on Raw, because if not, he'll screw everything up. Now this glitch may actually happen where it throws in a random superstar instead of the World Heavyweight Champion at other times. Save right before the Royal Rumble, and it might just do it for somebody else, but it's only a 1 or 2 time thing. Like, I had Christian get thrown into it, but then the next time I restarted it at the Royal Rumble, he wasn't in the match anymore. It was the World Champion, so you could have the Undisputed Championship match. But for some reason, Rob Van Dam just screws up everything if he's on SmackDown. So again, the very first thing you have to do is make sure he's on Raw, and that'll just avoid the whole problem. Alright, so here we are at the beginning of the season, and what I have to do, start up, I'm going to start from scratch, and you got to pick a superstar. Who do you want to have all the titles belong to? I'm going to pick Eddie Guerrero, which actually is a little bit of a pain because he's the United States Champion on SmackDown. So when you start, I actually have to go to SmackDown and drop the US title. If you're already playing through the game though, he may or may not already hold a belt. I just picked him because I know he's a cruiserweight and therefore can hold 7 of the 8 belts in the game. And he's not Rob Van Dam, who might ruin things later on. Now if you want to actually choose Rob Van Dam to be the Undisputed Champion, it should work for that. But if he's just a random guy floating around in season mode on SmackDown, that's when things get hairy. But I'm going to choose Eddie Guerrero because I like him. Okay, so the beginning of your very first season, before you start, you're going to Monday Night Raw. Well, here's the problem with that. You can't hold all the belts on the show. I know that you're supposed to be able to hold them all, but get the gist of what I'm saying. You can't be the World Tag Team Champion or the Women's Champion. You just can't qualify for the Women's title because you're not a woman. It doesn't even have that season option to play as the women. I don't know why. But anyway, if you hold the World Tag Team Championship, it literally won't be able to transfer you over to SmackDown when you start a new season, so that way you can be the Undisputed Champion. If you hold the World Tag Team Championships, I tried this, and then win all the titles on SmackDown, because you actually go there, win the titles there, at the beginning of a new season, it'll just say something like, a champion cannot be moved from his show, or something like that. And it just won't start a new season, and then you're screwed. It's game over. You literally will have to start over from scratch because you hold the World Tag Team Championships. So your partner will be on Raw, and you'll be on SmackDown holding that belt. And it literally just won't start another season. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So you can only hold up to 7 of the 8 championships. I've tried every way I could to get the World Tag Team titles over to SmackDown so you could bring all the belts to SmackDown, but I just don't see it as a possibility. I mean, you'd have to be able to move 2 champions over to SmackDown in the same season, and I just can't find that as a possibility. 1 is hard enough. So by the time you're even able to move anybody from Raw to SmackDown, it has to be the end of the season. So there's not even any time left to do it. If I ever do, which I doubt, I'd come with an update for you, but at this point in time, it doesn't look like it's possible. So you can only hold up to 7 of the 8 belts. Remember, when you're winning all the championships on Raw, go through first challenge for the Hardcore title, then the Intercontinental title, then the World Heavyweight title. Don't challenge for the World Tag Team titles, because if you do, you're going to be screwed later. So make sure that you don't challenge for it. Okay, so this is the part where I'm playing as Eddie Guerrero. You're going to challenge as on Raw for the titles. And the very first thing that you do is go into the general manager's office and challenge for some championships. So you want to go right up the list, challenging for the Hardcore title, then the Intercontinental title. Remember not to challenge for the World Tag Team titles, because that'll render everything useless and pointless and start from scratch later. You can't hold the World Tag Team titles as the Undisputed Champion. But once you win the Hardcore title and then the Intercontinental title, they're going to ask you if you want to challenge for the World title, or they'll just set up a World title match for you. Take it, win the World title, and then start over a new season with Eddie Guerrero still holding all the titles, and choose the WWE Champion from this point on. Make sure that you only play the matches that are essential, so that way you get through it as fast as possible, by the way. So if you're the WWE Champion, only choose the WWE Championship matches to defend. If you can skip right through to make it faster, that's great. And when you see Eddie Guerrero's titles are up on the line at the pay-per-views, make sure that you have him defend those and win those matches as well, because you won't get shots later on. Okay, so for the next part here, which is still at the beginning of your season, when you're starting Season 2 as the WWE Champion, there's a major problem that could happen here. At the very beginning of the season is the only time you can put people in the face and the heel category, so that way you can make the glitch possible. Make sure that you're a heel. Now, there's going to be times throughout the season where you're going to get to choose whether you want to be a face or a heel, but just stay heel. It's a lot easier. Instead of waiting for the opportunity to come up to become a heel and then forgetting or something, just make sure that you're a heel all the time. That's what I usually do. But as far as other people who are faces and heels can greatly affect this glitch and whether or not you can unify the championships. What happens is at some point in the future, you're going to have a match which is going to be a 6-man elimination match, and it's going to be on the way to the Royal Rumble and the Undisputed Championship match. If you're a heel, then you're already in it. That's great. But if you're a face, then there's a problem. Because if you're a face, then it's going to put a lot of heel competitors in there, which will include, generally speaking, certain superstars that can't qualify for the U.S. Championship, which will mean that the United States Championship might not be in the match, which will mean that the glitch won't work because you need the United States Champion to win this match. So at the beginning of the season, what you need to do is you need to take all the heel competitors and move them over to face that would generally qualify for the U.S. title. Guys like John Cena, Rhino, Edge, people on SmackDown who will qualify to face the United States Champion, put all those guys, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, whoever, take all those guys who will generally face the United States Champion, put them in the face category, and take all the extra guys like the cruiserweights and stuff like that, guys who don't usually get that shot, and put them all in the heel category with yourself. So that way when that match comes up, you'll have all the United States Championship competitors in the same category against you. Once that match actually comes up and you're in the 6-man elimination match, it's only going to put the people who are opposite of you. So if you're a heel, you'll be facing all faces. If you're a face, you'll be facing all heels. So you want to make sure that all the people who are in the U.S. competition, U.S. title competition, are against you, so that way you'll enter the U.S. champion in the match against you. Again, if the U.S. champion isn't in the match, then you can't unify the titles. So you need to make sure that all the U.S. title competitors are against you for the 6-man elimination match. So we are about to have the 6-man Battle Royal, which will happen on the 2nd week of January. And if you've done everything right so far, then you're going to play as WWE Champion, and you'll be a heel, and you'll be facing everyone in the match who's typically going to be a U.S. Champion competitor, including the U.S. Champion himself, which should all be face superstars, good guys, because it always puts in the opposite of what you are in this match. So, U.S. Champion, who is Test, is in the match with me, as I am playing as Kurt Angle. So you need to play the match and bring it down to just you and Test, and make sure that Test, the United States Champion, wins this match. When Test wins the match, that'll set up the Undisputed Championship match for the Royal Rumble, as it'll put the U.S. Champion at a disadvantage in it, and replace him in the match with the World Heavyweight Champion on Raw, and you can have your Undisputed Championship match. But you have to make sure that the U.S. Champion, whoever it is, on my game it happens to be Test. Whoever the United States Champion is on your game, you have to make sure wins this Battle Royal for it to be possible. Alright, once you've had the United States Champion, which in this situation is Test, win the match, as I'm still Kurt Angle, the WWE Champion, he'll come up to you and start talking to you. This means that you did the glitch correctly, and the United States Champion is now entered in the match for the Royal Rumble. Of course, the United States Champion is also supposed to be the same guy who challenges you for the championship at the Royal Rumble. So, at this point, you've done everything right and everything's moving along. As you can see, since you're being challenged by the United States Champion at the Royal Rumble, and your partner for the Royal Rumble is the United States Champion, you see him attacking himself. There's Test standing over his own body. So you'll come down to the ring and help your opponent, which is also your partner. This means that it's all set up for the Undisputed Championship match at the Royal Rumble. Since Test is going to be your partner, it'll keep him as your partner, and the guy who you're supposed to face, which is the other Test, will be replaced by the World Heavyweight Champion from Raw, which in this case happens to be Eddie Guerrero. Now it's possible to make an Undisputed Champion. Now, the problem with this, by the way, I'm going to mention now, is that only one title is on the line. So you can't have Kurt Angle beat Eddie Guerrero for his World Heavyweight title. Only the WWE Championship is on the line. So if you want to unify the titles, you have to have the World Champion win that match, which is why we set it up the way we did at the beginning. Okay, so here we are, the night of the Royal Rumble. Here's Test, your partner, coming up to you saying that he's unhappy about the situation that you're both in, meaning that he has to wrestle himself. Of course, that's not actually going to happen, as his alternate self is going to be replaced by the World Champion, but that's what's happening right now, as you're talking. This is just prior to the match. Okay, so we just had Eddie Guerrero pin Kurt Angle, so that way the World Champion pinned the WWE Champion to unify the titles. And as you'll see in a second here, and this is just something that I thought was funny, both of the tag team partners against you will be wearing the WWE Championship belt, which I thought was kind of cool. So this unifies the two titles, and although Eddie Guerrero will finish the season on Raw, you choose not to just start a new season yourself. From this point on, he'll go to SmackDown with both of the titles, including all the titles that he holds at this point on Raw. Okay, so here you see that we're going down to our profile page to look at the title info. If you see, Eddie Guerrero is now both the WWE Champion and the World Heavyweight Champion, basically, and he gets to hold all his titles from before. Now, here's the problem with this. If you want to hold all the titles on SmackDown as well, you have to choose a different superstar than the superstar that you want to choose, which in this case is Eddie Guerrero. If you choose Eddie Guerrero, who's the Undisputed Champion, then you're constantly going to be in storylines and you're not going to get title shots. So I would always choose a third-party superstar, like Steven Richards. Somebody who has low stats, not usually on the show and stuff like that. He doesn't get in the way. And then if you just play through the regular season mode, you'll see that Eddie Guerrero gets shots at all the titles because he's the #1 contender with the most superstar points. It's important to keep him at 100 points at basically all times, so that way he'll always be the challenger for those titles. So make sure that he basically never loses, and he'll win all the titles really, really fast. So if you just skip through, he'll get all the title shots, and in no time, you can make him the Undisputed Champion with all the additional titles as well. Then you can just hit new season, start the new season over with Eddie Guerrero, and hold 7 of the 8 belts of the game. Okay, here's another thing that I didn't really mention before, and it's kind of important. If you want to hold 7 of the 8 belts in the game, which includes the Cruiserweight title, there's a bit of a problem. You hit a snag, and it took me a long time to figure out how to get around it. But basically, if you want to hold the Cruiserweight title as well, it's a little difficult. What happened for me is I just assumed that he would get a shot, the Undisputed Champion, at the Cruiserweight title like anything else. And when I played as my created superstar, actually that worked. He just got a shot at the Cruiserweight title, no problem. But when I played as Eddie Guerrero, and I guess it happens with almost every superstar you play as, that's not that easy. For some reason, because I don't know if it's because you're the heavyweight champion or because you hold a really high other belt like the United States Championship, you don't qualify in regular season mode to just challenge for the Cruiserweight title. So I had to actually play as Eddie Guerrero, intentionally lose both the world title and the WWE title to the same person, by the way. You have to make sure it's the same person, because once you start a new season, you're all screwed, because then they would separate the belts on the shows and no more Undisputed Champion. So I had to intentionally lose both of those titles to the same person to keep the Undisputed title on SmackDown. Then I had to restart season mode, I just challenged immediately for the Cruiserweight title. It gave me the Cruiserweight Championship match because my Superstar points was high enough. And then, after that, winning the Cruiserweight title, I had to go back, play as Steven Richards again, so that way I'm not the person playing as the champion, because if so, I wouldn't get another title match. Challenge, have him in the match for the WWE Championship, and then a few months later in the match for the World Heavyweight title. Make sure he won both of those, start another new season, and as Eddie Guerrero, so I could play as Eddie Guerrero with all the belts. So if you want to hold the Cruiserweight title as well with all the rest of the belts, I guess with some superstars it is as simple as they get a shot at the Cruiserweight title, but I did everything it took to give them one. I even eliminated every other Cruiserweight superstar off the show. I moved them all to Raw, and I had Eddie Guerrero as the only other Cruiserweight on the program at the time, and it just literally wouldn't have a Cruiserweight title match all year long. So I guess the only way to do it is that you have to drop those 2 world titles, again, to the same man and challenge for it yourself. Then go back, win them both, not playing as the champion, so that way he'll keep being in the matches for the titles, and then have all the belts again. I'm sorry that it takes that long, at least with Eddie Guerrero, but that was the nature of the beast, and I thought I'd be honest with you. Okay, and here you can see after a short time, Eddie Guerrero holds almost every single championship in the game. Pretty much every title available to him other than the World Tag titles, because there's just no way to bring that to SmackDown. But every other title that he can qualify for other than that he holds: the WWE Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, the WWE Tag Team Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, the United States Championship, the Cruiserweight Championship, Hardcore Championship. He holds almost every title in the game. And if I go to Superstar Stats, so I can prove that this isn't individual pictures, that this in fact is him holding all the titles. When I go to belts, these are belts that he holds, you can see current on almost every single one of those. The only one that's dark is the World Tag Team title, because he holds all the other belts right now. So this is pretty much the best way to go through the game to do it. So if you want to hold almost every title in the game, this is the way. And you can see all the things that I've done in the game up to this point. Obviously, I didn't actually start from scratch. I played through a season so that way I could have the skip option, so that way I wouldn't have to play all of Steven Richards' matches and all of Kurt Angle's matches. I had a file already saved ahead of time for that. But yeah, this is the way to go through and win almost every title in the game. Okay, so that was the glitch of how to get 7 of the 8 World Championships in the game. That's how you become the Undisputed Champion and hold the majority of the belts. Aside from the difficulty of the Cruiserweight title there at the end, other than that, it's pretty simple once you know what you're doing. So here's the second glitch. This is a lot simpler if you want to be the Undisputed Champion. Again, if you just care about the Undisputed title and don't care about any of the other belts or money, let's say you already beat the game and you've got everything unlocked and stuff like that, and you don't care about the secondary titles, you just want to hold both world titles in the game just for the fun of that, then this glitch is probably more for you. It's a lot easier and you can only hold up to 4 of the belts. But again, I'm a person who likes to hold as many things as possible, so I don't generally, move people in this glitch's direction. But again, if you just want to hold the world titles, this is a lot easier, so this is the glitch for you. So I'm going to show you how to win the Undisputed Championship with Ric Flair, move both of those belts to SmackDown, and make it really, really simple to be Undisputed Champion. Okay, so here we go. At this point, you are the World Heavyweight Champion. So basically what you have to do to make this glitch work, to make the Undisputed Championship with Ric Flair is, and I'm playing as Triple H right now, to get this to work, you have to play on SmackDown as Ric Flair and win the WWE Championship first. That's the most important thing. And make sure that he holds the WWE Championship until WrestleMania. What you need to do is, once he's the WWE Champion, he is going to come over to Raw and challenge for the World Heavyweight title no matter what. It doesn't matter. You could actually even kick him off the game, and he literally still comes and challenges for the title. I deactivated him as a superstar, and he still came on the game and challenged me for the World Heavyweight Championship, which is how I found this. What you need to do is make him the WWE Champion on SmackDown and then go to Raw. Play through an entire season of Raw and get all the way up to WrestleMania. Make sure that Ric Flair is still the WWE Champion. Once you're the World Heavyweight Champion and you're challenged by Ric Flair at WrestleMania, make sure that he wins his match for #1 contendership for the world title at WrestleMania. So that way at WrestleMania, he can win the world title as well and become Undisputed Champion. Okay, so here we are at WrestleMania, and you have Ric Flair, the guy who you're going to face, the WWE Champion from SmackDown, about to unify the titles, giving you advice before your match against him, which wouldn't normally happen, but that's what's happening. So once you get to the actual card, you're going to see that you're facing the champion, but first, you're actually going to see a segment, an interview backstage with Ric Flair, who's going to face you. This is your opponent, Ric Flair, and not your friend, Ric Flair. And this happens every year before WrestleMania. Your opponent will have this segment backstage. And here is the card. World Heavyweight Championship match, Triple H versus Ric Flair. So you got to go through, intentionally lose the match. You can just skip it, so that way you don't even have to pay attention to that. For some reason, when I skipped this match, when I skipped a cage match, it counted it as being a disqualification, not an escape. I'm not really sure why, because it wasn't a DQ match. But that's the way it works. Alright, so we started a new season with Ric Flair, who is now the Undisputed Champion. The easy way, there you see that he is the WWE Champion and the World Heavyweight Champion. So he holds both of those titles. And again, just to show you that I did not use individual pictures, that he in fact does hold both of the titles. When you go to his belts, you see how both of those titles are lit up and none of the others are. So there you go, the WWE Champion and the World Heavyweight Champion. So if you only want to be the Undisputed Champion, that's the way to do it. You can also win the other titles that are on SmackDown. If you don't play as him, if you play as a secondary character. And there is a storyline where you get a shot at the United States Championship, but you have to wait a few months for that. And if you did this glitch, you probably don't care about the other belts, so not a big deal. But that is how you make the Undisputed Champion the Ric Flair way, the easy way. And there it is. I mean, those are both of the ways that I know how to make the Undisputed Championship, both from Raw and from SmackDown. Obviously, the one way is a lot more tedious, the first way, so that way you can get all the titles in the game, basically. But believe me, if you actually do it the correct way and get all the titles, it's worth it. And it gives you a good amount of money. I mean, I literally play one match, and just the rewards off all my titles, I get $5,700 just off those rewards, let alone at the end of the night, I'm making more than $12,000. So if you're a person who's just starting a new game and want to start from scratch and try this glitch, that's awesome. Try this out. You'll unlock everything pretty fast. I mean, within a year or two or something, because I was making $430,000 a year. And if you're just a person who likes to have glitches like this, ones that aren't meant to be in there, designed by the game, on your file, so that way you can see how they work or try them out, that's cool too. I was really surprised when I found it. It took a lot of trial and error, but once I got it, I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because I've been playing this game for years and never really tried anything like that. It took me a long time to actually exercise all these little nuances and glitches and things that happen in the game. What if I do this instead of that? And that's how I came up with it. So just keep playing games and keep trying things out, and maybe you'll find a glitch like this one day.